thank you very much for inviting me here today. I've known some of you for, what's it now, 8 years, on a few levels already, as colleagues, friends already. When I was offered the opportunity to come and speak here, I had a chance that I don't think we all do regularly, to look back over the past few years and to think, well, what have you accomplished? What changes came into your company? When I started to do this presentation, I realized that we've come a long way in the group ShopRite, with everything with ORTEC, and also like the presenter said earlier, we don't always see that. Even if in our own company, not everybody knows the usage of ORTEC and what it led to, the doors it opened within multiple areas within the company. And I was looking at the thing, and my idea of presenting ShopRite to you would be just to go quickly through what is the ShopRite group, what ORTEC and ShopRite, the results that we had in a specific case study within ShopRite, and then the way forward. Now, first of all, ShopRite is the largest food retailer in Africa. We've got 984 corporate and 256 franchise outlets in 17 countries. Now, just for goodness sake, I on Tuesday thought maybe I just need to check these facts again, because that was the information on our corporate website. And as luck would have it, that changed since last week until now. At this stage, we're at 1,400 stores, just to give you indication of, in the last year, the changes that were made. Now, we have a number of brands that all reside under the ShopRite group of companies. The main one would obviously be ShopRite, then Checkers Hyper, Usave, and then on this side, I don't know if you can see it, Medirite and Liquor Store. I'm going to focus on them because they are the ones that we primarily distribute to, of course, Freshmark also. From the distribution centers to those specific stores. The other brands are also part of the group, but does not get direct delivery at this stage, I might add. I'm still battling like crazy to get them onto the ORTEC platforms and everything, but I'll get there one of these days. Now, just to give you some indication, this is a map of Africa. The red would be all the external countries that we are in. Nigeria, Ghana, you can see all of that. Angola would be our next big project in terms of ORTEC outside of the South African country, because we've got an established distribution center there. We've already did some strategic planning from the ORTEC side for routes and everything in that distribution. Once an area is stabilized in the distribution supply chain, then we bring in the ORTEC system and to start making the day-to-day changes. As the emphasis changed from the overall getting the stores up and running towards a more customer relations and getting the ordered stock there in a very fast manner. Within South Africa, the South African map is divided into 9 regions. We've got 4 major distribution centers specifically for the foods distribution. They are in the Western Cape, in the Port Elizabeth region. We've got one in Durban and also in the Gauteng area. The challenges in South Africa and also in Africa is the infrastructure. One would traditionally, if you look at transport economics and so on, expect that the rail network would be there for certain functions, for certain distributions of long distances and so on. And unfortunately, the economics in South Africa is just outside of the radius that would be optimum for a railway system distribution of them. And that causes within South Africa that the third-party transport is primarily focused on long-distance transport. And that makes local transport from your distribution centers not as available as you would normally like. And that is just one of the main reasons where we as a group decided to invest into our own transport. So we've got our own fleet to distribute to the stores and so on. And then we've got quite rigid labor laws. Now I'd say this with all the necessary respect, but within our labor law, there is no distinction between, for instance, active and passive working hours. A driver is seen to be on duty from point 1 to 2. So in the local transport environment, if a driver drives a half an hour, offloads for 3 hours at the store, where in our environment no physical work is required from the driver, that is still seen as a 3.5 hour work time of that driver. So it puts a lot of emphasis on making sure that the stores know when this delivery will happen, so that offloading happens at the optimum time, fast, quick, because of the labor implications to the rest of the deliveries and the assignment of drivers. Now, my specific example that I want to talk is about Cape Town, and I had to put in a picture of my hometown. Some of you that have visited us will probably know this site and so on. I took this picture from a helicopter tour, so whenever you got a chance to come and visit South Africa, please do so. You can even write it off as a site visit. Come and visit ShopRite and come and look what's going on there. Now, within the Western Cape, we realized, this is now around about 7-8 years ago, we realized that we as supply chain was not meeting our own standards of what we wanted to supply the stores with. And we work on a basis of a store orders their delivery, or the required delivery on day 1. It's transmitted to the distribution centers. We do the production of that and deliver the next day. So we're effectively working with a 24-hour delivery cycle from order to the delivering point. And we just realized that this, due to our old techniques, we were falling behind. We were not supplying the stores at that rate, and also against a very high error rate. Our aim was to be at 1%, and we were above that. I won't go into details of how much, but we were above that. Just to give an indication, at that stage, in terms of the Western Cape, we had a number of distribution centers, and all the lines indicates all the activities that at that stage was still managed by a human on paper, trying to plan all of these activities and trying to do that within a reasonably quick time, because like I said, the plan had to come out for production to start. And we realized this is not humanly possible anymore. We need to go to the next level. So the need was identified for a unifying system. Obviously, there were points like reducing kilometers and making savings of vehicles and all of that. But primarily in our supply chain, we made a decision not to look at our transport department as necessarily a transport department. We were not running it as a vehicle operation. It was ultimately, we were giving a service to our retail stores, and that was the primary concern. And the transport department at that stage was almost seen as a separate entity of the distribution side, the various distribution side, where the reason why I say unifying system was required was the distribution center would go and do their production schedules and start producing, and transport just had to fall in. Now you can imagine that's what some of the reasoning behind falling behind on our delivery schedules and everything. We needed a system that could guide the DCs in their action, a system that could see the fleet as a whole, because the various DC fleets were planned as separate. And we needed a system that can give us realistic expectation, because through everything there was still your peaks. The customers did not always order full truckloads. They tend to sometimes order more than that, and more than likely less than that. So in the event of very high volumes, sometimes it's needed for somebody just to say, listen here, irrespective of the supply that we want to give, we cannot produce that level, and rather be realistic in your expectations of what to give. And ShopRite was then identified to give us that. Now, as the original planning manager, I had a very interesting time after implementation to actually give results, because once the supply chain got on full steam, all the new processes that we followed, I had a difficult time because the company was just waiting for the supply chain to be ready to give us the support that they needed, and the moment it was there, they started opening up a lot of project stores that they were dying to start and so on. So the like-for-like comparison that I had was only for a 4-month period. And in that period, after implementation of ORTEC, our volumes move increased by around about 22%. And this was done and a reduction of kilometers of 1%. Now, in terms of euros, I had to do a little bit thing, that was around about 400,000 euros saving that was presented at a 4 million euro increase in volume moved. After the 4 comparable months, the operation changed, and this is almost for me more important than the previous slide, because we started with a rapid increase in opening up new stores. As you can see, we increased our delivery points from 240 to 520, and we did this with only an increase of from 79 to 123 vehicles. So by far, our supply chain was able to increase its production, increase the supply and everything at a lower rate that we were opening up stores. I also mentioned as the stores became used to this level of service that we gave, they also start to become very specific in their needs. Among others is specific time windows and all the restrictions that me from a transport optimization point was desperately trying them not to follow, but ultimately it was to the greater good of the company. The results, over the years we are now left with the following environment. Our process currently is the transport optimization using ShopRite and now in the future OTD is seen as the beginning point of all the action that needs to happen. The orders come in from the stores. It is first of all given to ShopRite, in the past now OTD, and then that creates the production sequence for the DC. The planning, everything, the management of 1,200 people, all is governed by the workload determined by ShopRite. Then this is used to create, like I said, the production sequences, and the most important thing, the unifying system that I spoke about earlier, the system guides everybody on the same plan. There's no crisis management. This is the plan. Everything falls in line there. One of the examples, I don't know how many users were here, but when Sabi came to visit us in South Africa, he said, well, there he saw a part of the standard rollout version is the MIS file. I don't know if any one of you have seen it. That was an example of something that was specifically created for us over the years to enable the interaction between the ShopRite plan and our warehouse management system to assist the whole process of loading and offloading and assigning staging doors and everything on the floor. The way forward, at this stage, we have made a decision to upgrade our version from ShopRite to OTD. We've run some plans and all of that already. We're on the verge of everything going live in there. We are busy with the finalization of the integration between OTD and Mixed Telematics. Mixed Telematics would be our local telematics provider in which to follow the plan and actual, route deviations, because in South Africa that's a very high risk area, the potential of hijackings and so on. We felt that it is important for us to bring that also into our security point of view. And then the other major factor is, again, the combination of loads and not seeing our various DCs as separate entities within that. So yeah, that is the story of ShopRite and where we are on ORTEC and where we are currently within ShopRite with the system. Thank you.